It is Monday on Daily Delivery. Michael Rand here. Patrick Reusse joins me as usual. Red hot Minnesota teams. Patrick, how are you this morning?
It's very, very. I went looking around the whole house today for my optimism. I think I found it, so we'll see here. It's pretty amazing watching that thing last night. What we get Booker and Durant get 82,
Yeah.
and they end up. I think if they told us before the game started that Booker would get 49 and Durant get 33, the Wolfies might be in trouble. But and then Ant was couldn't put the ball in the ocean in the first half. He was and he and they. Then when he made a good pass, whoever he threw it to couldn't put the ball in
Yeah.
the basket, and they once again it was a lot like the opener. Not, I mean, Phoenix was playing better, but it was a lot like the opener, or was it game two of the series when they were like playing awful and they were right in it at
Yeah.
halftime.
Yep. That
Phoenix
was it.
never put them away. It was a 51-50 game, and they
Right.
were terrible. And then last night was kind of the same way. That somehow, because of their defense and their rebounding is, you know what they did?
Hmm.
They beat. Sure, they beat them on the boards because of their height, but they also beat them to every loose ball.
Yeah.
To me, it's the long rebounds. They beat them to all. They were really in game three. They were a step quicker the whole night. But even yesterday, they were. When the ball's up for debate, the Timberwolves ended up with it, and it was. And then of course Ant went crazy and started. He gets 31 in the second half. And so what did he make? His first four threes?
Yeah.
I
He
mean,
made six threes in the second half. So,
six threes. That one would look like he was so far out, it looked like Caitlin Clark on that one
right.
that he made at the end. So it was about a 32 footer. And he got the feeling, and he's got it looked like he did something to his ankle, but heck, they're gonna have a week to get him healthy, and the coach
Yeah. Right.
is going to be out. But if they're right, and it's the patellar tendon, he ain't going to be coaching. He gonna. I don't think they let you sit on the sidelines with crutches, do they? So
Maybe the second row. Maybe he can sit in the second row. Who
yeah,
knows?
I mean he could be there, but he's not going to be Finchy walking up and down in
No.
front of the
No.
thing. And it was funny, that Connolly kind of got just pushed into him, and there was no place to go, and
Right.
he knew he was hurt right away, man. That thing must have hurt when he got popped because there was no question of, I'm sure that there was. I'm sure he didn't want to be back in the locker room for the last minute and a half, but he had no choice, I guess. He got it, that tendon under, that's basically the kneecap, right? Isn't that
The
where that
patella is the kneecap.
injury
Yeah.
is?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, wow. Anyway, you know, it was, it's a weird game, isn't it? That they play that team three times during the regular
Oh, yeah.
season, get hammered, get hammered, and then you see the matchup and you say, what's Phoenix going to do about this size? They can't get any rebounds. So it was a very spectacular performance by we. When's the last time we saw a Minnesota sports team put something together like this? I mean, the Twins finally won a series last year, but that was a couple of baseball games. I haven't. I don't think I've been as surprised by some Minnesota dominance as I can't remember the last time I was this surprised by a local team doing what they did.
100%. And I think I read last night this was the first time ever that a Minnesota sports team swept a 4-0 in a 7-game series. I think this is the first time ever, not just Timberwolves,
Uh,
anybody. I think that might be
even
true.
even our Lakers never did that when we were winning.
I don't know
Now a lot
how
of it
far back it
was.
goes. Maybe it's the current teams, but I don't know. I read something that there have been 60 tries and nobody's had a 4-0 sweep in a 7-game
Well,
series.
and what you got to remember is that the NBA back in the day, I think maybe the only 4 game series was the final
Yeah, they
too.
used to play.
So
They played weird series back then, didn't they?
you realize that when we lost the Lakers, it was an 8 team league.
Yeah, right.
It was a different animal,
Yes,
back
yes,
then, and so I mean, this is a grind. This is
yes.
to get to the finish line, but man, it's weird to turn on the post game shows and have people just effusively praising the Minnesota Timberwolves. It's never. It's an even when they had the great team in '04, it was not as there wasn't as many people impressed as there are right now. It's pretty phenomenal. Although I heard Charles last night, and he's still not fully on the bandwagon, but because he says they played a very mediocre Suns team, and he admitted he was surprised it was a sweep, but with a very mediocre Suns team, well, I wouldn't call them mediocre. They certainly weren't as good as they thought they were going to be, but and losing Grayson Allen hurt them probably, but yeah, it was phenomenal for sure.
I think the Suns would like a do-over on the Bradley Beal trade.
Oh
He's
man, yeah,
nice
yeah,
player sometimes, but inconsistent. What did he have? 9 points last night before he fouled out. Didn't they give up like four
yeah,
first round picks, a whole bunch of second round picks? They paid him a whole bunch of
yeah.
money to form this big three, and he's just not that guy. He's
And I heard somebody on the NBA postgame show, okay, a former guard player, and saying they they didn't leave them. They don't have a point guard on a roster
no,
basically. So Devin Booker has got to become a ball handler, and he can do that. He can be an ant type ball handler, but they need a lead guard. They let Chris Paul go, and they spent the money on Bradley Beal, but they don't. They got they got 2 guards and Durant, and then they don't have any size. So Durant, who for his whole career has basically not been a power forward,
no, he's a small forward.
so now they got him playing. He's a 6'10" small forward who moves like a small forward, which has made him one of the greatest players ever. But now he's got to be a rebounding for. He's got to be a power
Right.
forward with this lineup. So they don't have any size, and yeah, their roster. The new owner of the Phoenix team, who's got talked into spending all this money, has got to be feeling a little bad. He's the guy who wanted to buy our club, by the way,
That's right.
with cash. But according to Glenn Taylor, when I talked to him, he also wanted to move the team to Las Vegas.
Right.
So anyway, yeah, it was. Yeah, they kind of look around, but they were. I mentioned this last week. When they got Beal, they were the 3rd pick to win the NBA title in the
Yeah.
preseason. They were
Yeah.
6-1. They were 6-1. The Timberwolves were 66-1.
It's
They were
amazing.
16th, and now
Well, yeah.
they made hey, Finchie ended up 3rd as the coach of the year. I think I'm never one to complain about that stuff
Of
because it's
course,
all
yeah.
nonsense anyway. But the way they were able to meld the Towns and Gobert, that's coaching. They spent,
Yes.
the guy spent all summer with his brain trust figuring out how they're going to do this,
Yes.
and it worked. And
Yes.
by the way, Anthony got all the pub last night, but Towns was fantastic.
Yes, he
That's the
was.
best he's been in years. He
Yes, it was
was
the best
great.
playoff game he's ever played, as far as I'm
Yeah,
concerned.
yeah, he was terrific. And you know who else was a monster at times too in the second half? McDaniels.
Yeah.
He did. He can go guard people, and he can. But when he slashes to the basket, and everybody's talking about Ant's dunk, and it was certainly impressive. How about McDaniels when
Yeah.
he came in from the side and took all the air out of the arena? So
Yeah.
it was, the poor Timberwolves being overwhelmed with praise for the first
Right.
time in
Well,
a year in decades.
like
So
you said, I'm equally shocked. And by the way, I don't know what you said at the beginning of the show. I don't know where in the house you keep your optimism. It must be like in the corners. It must be like far tucked away. Do you keep the optimism? You have to
oh
only
yeah,
only for special
at my
occasions.
That's right. So it was, and Denver's going to be a favorite, and they're going to
Yeah.
have to figure out what to do with the Moose. But that'll be a good series. That'll
And,
be good. They'll win a couple of games for sure. They're going to have a chance, I think.
well, and they don't. I think that they certainly respect Denver, but I think, from talking to Chris Hine, I think they're not afraid of that matchup. They like that matchup. They think they match up at least pretty well with Denver because they can throw a lot of big guys. They can do different things with Jokic, and now that they've kind of figured out how to deploy Nickeil Alexander-Walker, how much of a playoff weapon he can be. He didn't shoot much last night, but he's
Oh, he
still
was terrible
such an
last
he's
night offensively.
such an
Yeah.
important player for them right now, though, just in his ability to guard and handle the ball for stretches, stuff like that. Like they do have the right kind of team. I'm not saying they'll beat Denver. I think they can beat Denver. Not saying they will, but they have the right kind of team to beat Denver.
Yes, although if Tibbs had taken the advice of John Calipari and taken Jamal Murray instead of Chris Dunn,
Whew.
they would probably feel a little better.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Supposedly Calipari called up Tibbs and said, "Take this kid." He goes, he was a freshman, Jamal Murray, and Tibbs wanted that toughness, so he got
Yep.
himself Chris Dunn. So, but Phoenix is, and he didn't play much in the series till last night, but the Phoenix's lack of depth, the sense
Yeah.
that Okogie's an
Yeah.
important player for him, for goodness sake. So, the funny thing is, if you get to the playoffs and you can go nine deep, you're deeper than most of them, really.
Yes.
When
Yes.
then these guys, they can play nine guys, and that's deeper than most teams are. I mean, my guy Tibbs in New York, he played like four of them 47 minutes the other
Yes.
night, yesterday,
And
to
they're up
win that
3-1
game,
now.
and they only played like they only played like seven guys. So this is actually, you don't think eight or nine players would be in depth, but it is when you get to the playoffs. So it was very impressive.
Yeah, and I think the most impressive thing to me is just the fact that they could go get the sweep. Like you figured, you saw the first two games, and you're like, okay, they are playing like the better team. They're probably a good chance to win one in Phoenix, but to have, I haven't remembered a local team, especially the Timberwolves. Like think about the Timberwolves even last year, like losing their focus all the time, losing to these terrible teams all the time last year. Like a team that has enough focus that knows that you don't mess around in a series like this. You don't give Phoenix, you don't just punt on a game because you've got two more home games left. You say, okay, let's finish this right now to be able to take that game seriously. That showed me a level of maturity, just another level of maturity that they've shown all year, but just another level, I think.
Well, and the other thing is that game three they went down there and they played great and they dominated it. But last night you took Phoenix's best shot and
Yes.
still beat them.
Yes.
Still beat them in Phoenix. You got 82 points from
Yes.
two of the best players in the league, two
Yes.
Olympians. Devin Booker's fantastic.
Yes.
Got every call until the fourth quarter, and then he called a couple of fouls. But you still took their best bolt, and I said at halftime, if Ant stops throwing rocks, they're playing bad. But if Ant stops throwing rocks, they'll, and
Yeah.
everybody did. But he was like 2 for 8 the first half, missed a
Yep.
couple of free throws, had 9 points, and then he goes out and gets 31.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's astounding to say, to keep repeating myself. It's
But it is.
astounding here.
Yeah. We're not used to this. We weren't used to at least a week ago the Twins winning games. We gave it to them pretty good a week ago on the show. They were 7-13,
Oh man,
and they couldn't hit anything. They were below 200 batting average. They were like 8.5 games out in the division.
195.
They were 195 back then. So
I
now
looked it up. They were hitting 195 last Monday morning. They're hitting 238
it's
this morning. They
amazing.
got 17 hits in back-to-back games. And now their biggest problem is, who do they have to send out when Correa gets
Right?
activated? Poor Austin Martin's probably going to get sent back to St. Paul, even though he's been a pretty good contributor to them.
Yes.
But even you knew the slump was over when Kyle Farmer got a couple of hits
Right.
because he was
And
hitting
Santana.
zero. So And Santana. In fact, about when was it? The last game, and maybe the first game there. I was watching a game, and he caught a couple of pop-ups or something.
Hmm.
And I said, or was it the last game against Chicago? I don't know. Might have been the last game against Chicago. And I said, I know why they got Carlos Santana. He's really good at catching pop-ups. And the next time, and the next bat, he hit a home run. He hit his first home run of the year. I think he's hit three now and
Yeah,
knocked
he had
in some
homers in three
runs.
straight games. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's we all wanted to fire Popkins, and now he's probably going to get a new contract. I don't know. We'll see. Now the White Sox, the revitalized White
Yes.
Sox, they just swept the Rays, so
Right.
they doubled their victory total. They had like I was watching them a little bit the other day. They had like 28,000 people there Saturday. I wonder what they were giving
Really?
away.
Hmm.
I thought they'd have because I watched them on Friday and there were like 14 people there, and then
Sure.
on Saturday they had a good crowd, so they must have promoted something. But they were the crowd was manic. They were going crazy, a Chicago type crowd. So yeah, they had somebody show up. So I don't know. It's it it I reading the quotes of Rocco and having talked to Rocco at the end of the last homestand. I think there's nobody more surprised than him that this
Well,
came out of the
he
blue.
was
In
he
fact,
was very frustrated at one point. He
oh,
was very frustrated.
well, I told him the other day that when they were playing the White Sox,
Yeah.
that that the White Sox had a lower team batting average than they did, and he was very shocked. Now they're getting a whole bunch of hits, and but explain Pablo to me, would you please?
Yeah. I
He's
don't
got a
know.
no hitter. He's got a no hitter with two outs in the fifth. He starts messing around, and he gives up four runs, including back-to-back home runs instantly, and they take him out of the game after 5 innings.
Yeah.
He's sailed through 14 batters, and then boom. I don't know. I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, I like him, and they obviously need him. But what? Where does this this happens to him regularly? That he just goes along, and then he's had that one awful inning, and this time they didn't bring him back out for the sixth. Now his velocity 2 starts ago was way down, and
Right.
then it was okay yesterday. So he's okay, but I don't know. Their bullpen is. You think their bullpen isn't as good as you'd like it to be, and then you see some of these other bullpens and say, "Yeah, it's pretty good."
Well, I
So
mean,
I don't
yeah,
know.
if there's so many injuries
I don't
out
know.
there, the bullpens are going to be hurting anyway. So yeah, it's they're asking a
Yeah.
lot of the bullpen already this year, though. I feel like they're not the thing that, they're not just getting the same not getting the same quality of starts, but
Oh no.
they're not getting the innings they were last year. What are they were? I think they finished third in starters innings last year, something like third,
Or
top five for sure.
third or fourth, something like that. And the year before they were 27th or
Yeah,
28th or something like that. So that was the Chris Archer year when hey,
right.
Chris wasn't too bad today. He gave us 3 2/3, So
Right.
yeah,
Archer and
that's
Bundy.
well, it not and Pettit looked bad the other day. I thought he didn't. The quality of his pitches
Yes. Oh,
was terrible.
his breaking ball was just flat. He was just getting hammered in that inning that he gave up all the runs.
They're not going to they're not to get a finish line with this starting rotation. So meanwhile, Sonny Gray's not giving up any runs down in
No,
St.
he's
Louis.
pretty
So
good, but he's 25 million. That's
it is
a
a lot. It is a lot when you proudly announce to your fans that you're cutting payroll.
right.
That's a lot of money. So still one of the great marketing screw ups of all time. Let
Right.
the fans figure it out. Don't have
Right.
to. You
Just
don't announce.
right.
Don't pound your chest proudly and say, "Yeah, we're cutting some payroll here."
Right.
Did you enjoy us finally getting I was going to say that the end of playoff misery, though,
Right.
for the Timberwolves and the Twins
Yes.
back to back here.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
20
Don't tell
years.
us this is a. Don't tell us we're a put upon fan base. We're we're getting more than we deserve here. So with this playoff success, so
Gosh, I guess both of those streaks went back about the same, right? Because the last time the Twins had
Yep.
won a playoff game was 2004. Same with the Wolves winning a
Yes.
playoff series.
Yeah, Wolves in the spring won 2 playoff series, and that is amazing, isn't it? Two of your franchises, 20 years
Well,
to win a couple of play.
we
Yeah,
don't realize how good we had it back in the early to mid 2000s, right? Because you had the
yes,
Vikings make it to the NFC title game after the 2000 season. You had the Wild run to the conference finals in 0203. You had the Wolves going there. You had the Twins going to the ALCS in 2000. It was like 4 straight years where someone made it to the cusp, at least, of the
yes,
finals, and then nothing since then, except for college sports, Lynx, of course. But those four teams have been shut out pretty much ever since then.
yeah, yeah. It's been amazing. Now don't mention that 2001 Viking game to me again. It gives me. I start laughing and I can't stop when I think of the 41 to donut game. It was a great. It's the most fun I ever had in the press box. The insults were flying from all. Even even the dignified Kevin Seifert was making cracks about
Oh,
how
jeez.
rotten the Vikings were. That's when I happened to be in the men's room the same time as Brzezinski was at halftime, and he started barking at me for all the insults we were shouting. It was
Oh, geez.
34-0, and
Yeah,
I
it was.
said, "I'm not the guy getting beat 34-0 here, buddy." So it was the damnedest. It will remain forever the most miserable no show I've ever seen by a
Oh,
Minnesota sports team, without a doubt.
and they were favored.
They
They were
were, yeah,
favored.
two and
Slight
two and a half
favorites.
point
Yeah,
favorites,
slight
yeah,
favorites.
on the
Oh,
road. I'll never forget Sid charging into the office about 3 different times, telling us how optimistic Denny and the coaches were behind it. That they don't think they can lose this game. And then they threw Randy's buddies off the sideline, and he
yep.
decided not to show up. So
Yeah.
that was a beauty. That was a beauty, man. I don't
Unbelievable.
know. On this glorious day, we shouldn't be bringing
No,
that
we
game
shouldn't. We
back.
shouldn't
No,
have.
not what they did.
Wolves just swept.
Wolves
Twins have won seven in a row. The Vikings, I don't think the
killed
draft
it.
couldn't have gone much better in terms of what they had to give up for their quarterback, right? They still got to make another first round pick. They still have their pick next year, and they got one
Yeah.
of the guys at least that we all knew they wanted.
Yes, and they were well. We thought the Atlanta Falcons were
Oh
kind of
boy.
stupid to give
Oh boy.
Kirk this
What are
much
they doing?
money, but what apparently he told Schefter that because they like about 8 minutes before the pick, Schefter comes on TV and says the Atlanta Falcons are going to pull the first stunner of the of the draft a quarterback. Saying, are you nuts?
Yeah.
But he hadn't told Arthur Blank apparently because once he makes the pick, he's over there trying. That guy won't make it to opening day. He won't be there.
No.
No, he won't be their general manager on
No.
opening day.
What are they
What a
doing?
moron!
Like, what are you
I don't
doing?
know. You need your offensive line was terrible last year. You almost got
Defense is terrible.
yeah, yeah, the defense. And this guy the Vikings drafted, the defensive lineman from
Turner, yeah.
Alabama
Dallas
is
Turner,
a
yeah. Oh
monster.
yeah.
I I said it last week that I watch about 100 plays a year of college football. About 60 of them are the Vikings. The rest of them, the hell with it. I don't care.
Gophers,
But
yeah.
I watched a little bit of the championship game and stuff like that. I mean, yeah, the Gophers. Some of them, I watched some of the Gophers. But I watched Alabama for about 40 plays in a regular season game. Maybe it was the Georgia game and the SEC title game or whatever it was.
Right.
That guy made about 8 plays when I was watching it, saying I was saying this guy's unblockable. He was a
Yeah.
monster, and you end up getting him 15th because
17th.
Peyton's out there in Denver bragging. Yes,
Right.
didn't they trade up? No,
They traded from 23 to 17.
they traded up to get 50. Oh, that's right. Yeah, the 17 they got him.
Yeah.
It was amazing to get those two guys, and I have always said, as our guy Spielman was drafting sixth and seventh, hoarding
Mm.
sixth and seventh rounders. You gotta the NBA draft. I mean, the NHL, NFL draft is about difference makers.
Yes.
That's what counts. The rest of them are bodies. The unsigned free agents or draft seventh, sixth, seventh round draft choices are the same people. It's the same group,
Yes.
and you got to get difference makers. And we're not 100% on the quarterback, but I'm
Right.
100% on this defensive
Yes.
lineman. He's better than Hunter. He's better than Hunter at his best. This guy, I love this guy.
Yeah. And just the fact
So,
that just the fact that the board unfolded the way it did so that they didn't have to give up all that much. I mean, they probably could have even just sat there and waited for McCarthy at 11, but you don't want to mess around if there's someone else that might jump up ahead of you. So just, the fact they didn't have to give up another first round pick to go get their quarterback, that McCarthy got to 10, and then they could just be like, okay, here's a little bit for you, Jets. Now we're going to take our
yeah,
guy. You still got to take Dallas Turner, and then you still have your first round pick next year too. Like if you trade up for Drake May, or some of the earlier projections were saying you're going to have to give up
yes,
at least the two this year and probably one next year to move up that high. They didn't have to do that. So that's like it's like the double win for them. They get the quarterback. We don't know about the quarterback. They're going to take a quarterback no matter what. And they don't lose all that future draft capital either.
how about Peyton out there in Denver bragging that he made the
Oh,
Vikings give up
geez.
a draft choice because faking that he might move up to get McCarthy. Then he proudly takes Bolton
Bo
at
Nix.
12th when he probably could have gotten him 25th.
Right.
So, what a dummy he is.
Well,
But
what does he care either? Like he's
yeah,
still bitter about the skull chant and Minneapolis Miracle and how they ridiculed him in that game 7 years
yeah,
ago. I'm sure he's probably just trying to.
yeah, I don't know. He's a raving egomaniac, but they paid what they paid him 9-10 million a year,
A
something
lot,
like
yeah.
that. Right? So unbelievable. So
But yeah,
yeah, it was a try. I'm not a big draft guy. I watch the draft by looking at my cell phone, but I thought they did brilliantly getting rid of Cousins, and then to have Atlanta turn around and do this, and
well,
and now poor Kirk's feelings are hurt, right?
yeah,
Kirk's
well,
feelings are hurt that they took the quarterback.
and he's got at least 2 years guaranteed there. So if Atlanta, like, it makes like a tiny bit more sense if Atlanta would have taken McCarthy, right? Because McCarthy just turned 21. You could see him needing
Yeah,
some time to develop things like that. Like Penix is 24. Like by the time he becomes a potential starter, he's going to be like 26, 27. Like this isn't the kind of guy who should be
yeah.
sitting for 2 years behind a guy who you signed to a huge contract in the offseason, a veteran who has a no trade clause. You've definitely said, we want to win right now. We think this is the guy that can help you win right now. And then you draft somebody who cannot at all help you win right now with the number 8 pick. It was baffling. It was completely baffling.
And then not only that, you're not only upsetting Kirk, but what do you think Penix feels like? He's
Right.
got to feel like, what do I want to go here? There's no team in the league that he would less rather be with than them.
Right.
What's he want to go down there and sit there and be the backup for?
No.
It was just. And did you hear this Stumblebum try to explain it afterwards
No, I didn't. I didn't hear him.
when he
What a
went to the post game? It was just a bunch of
bunch of
nonsense about
gobbledygook. Yeah.
when you get a chance to get a great young athlete, blah blah blah. You got all these flaws on your team that this is what you're going to do. It was just incredible because I think is the bottom. The spin became they think they're going to be so good for the next few years that they wouldn't have a chance to draft a quarterback as this good again.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
yeah, right.
Okay.
Yeah,
Even
well,
so, like
yeah.
you've
Wait,
you've already committed to someone for at least the next 2 years. And this
yes,
isn't like Green Bay when they did the thing with Rodgers and did the thing with Love, where they had like a pick in the mid 20s and they're like, okay, we think someone fell
yeah,
far enough that we think this is really good value. Let's draft him and kind of like
yes,
develop him. This is the number 8 pick. Like this is a
yes.
premium pick a player who could immediately help you next year if you think you're going to be that good. If you think you're going to be that good, maybe that player can help you get to the NFC title game or the Super Bowl. Like, well, it just doesn't make
That's
any sense.
Okay, I got another question about the
Okay.
drafts. Why, if you're from Detroit and they got this big square in the out near the stadium and they got a big screen up there, why do you come down there and stand there with 20,000 other people? I don't get this
I
to
don't get,
watch the
yeah.
draft. What are you doing?
I
What
don't
is
get, I
what
don't get
why
attending.
do you want to be there for the pride of the city or what? And this nonsense that 700,000 people showed up for it. What a bunch of crap that is. Detroit, this claim that 700,000 people attended the draft. Why? Why are you standing out there in a mass of people to watch? I can see, well, I can't see, but I can see a little more like in Milwaukee going to watch a playoff game or the NBA finals or semifinals or something and standing out there.
Sure.
But to watch the draft where your team gets one pick every 3 hours, I don't quite understand that. But they've definitely in true NFL style, they've definitely turned it into a phenomenon, that's for sure. And fortunately, we aren't going to get it for a few years, right?
We'll get one at some point, don't you think? That's going to happen at
Yeah.
some point. We'll get one. And
Yeah, we don't. Where are we going to have the big standing area, though?
yeah,
I
that's a
guess.
good
I
question.
guess maybe over there across the street, they can in front of the train. They could have a big. I don't know. I don't
Yeah,
know.
probably to shut
That's
the trains
yeah,
down for a while, but um
yeah.
yeah, and the
Well,
whole that phenomenon of having to attend the draft doesn't make any sense to me.
no.
It's fun to watch, it's fun to pay attention to, but you're right. Like, there's not the payoff. It's the beauty of the draft is after the first 25 or 30 picks or so, you can kind of just keep tabs on it, and hey, when's the team I care about picking, and then you can go get on with your life for another 3 hours and then come back to it.
Well, I got news for you. You can do that in the first round too. I went to a movie and just looked at my phone a little once in a while, so to see what they were doing. And I when they got Turner, I couldn't believe it. But
Yeah.
anyway,
Neither could Kevin O'Connell. You saw the
yeah,
video of him
yeah,
on social media. He's like his big surprised face. I think Chip wrote about that the other day.
yeah,
He couldn't believe it
yeah.
either.
I think it was sincere too. It's not the
Yeah.
usual BS.
No.
It was sincere. And I don't think our Packers did much either. So I think the Bears, of course, when you're
Yes.
picking first, you're doing pretty good, and
You got
Detroit
the
knows
receiver
what they're
too.
doing. But Detroit knows what they're doing. But I'm not sure young Goody is that bright of a fellow. And then of course some of the other picks were incredibly lousy. So. But our guy Quasi, I think, got off the hook with the fans, didn't he? With this,
Yep.
that we don't have to complain about that first draft anymore.
No.
So,
Royal Credit Union's smart checking accounts offer no monthly fees and no minimum balance. Enjoy financial freedom when you open your Royal Credit Union smart checking account online at rcu.org/go checking. Insured by NCUA.
How soon do you think it'll be until McCarthy plays? That's an interesting thing to kick
I
around.
don't know. It depends upon how Darnold plays, I guess. Huh? I mean, Christian Ponder played before he was supposed to because
Yeah.
McNabb was it? Who do we
McNabb.
have it?
Donovan McNabb.
No,
Yeah.
McNabb. Yeah, McNabb was fat and terrible when he came in here. So I don't think we'll have that problem with Darnold. I don't think that it depends upon how good McCarthy looks too,
Right.
doesn't it? I mean,
Yeah, I think it's all that.
he'll look good in the exhibition game, so we'll get all excited about him. But I don't know. I don't know how good. I don't know how good he is. They say he's a pretty good athlete. So
Hmm.
you know, well,
I'm a,
it's hard to. When you don't have to make that many plays, it's hard to tell how good you are. I mean, if you put him and Penix and if you flip flop teams in the national championship game, I think the result's the same. Michigan wins big, so in my
yeah.
opinion. So anyway, but he's that's a. I mean, this was the time to make your move and get a
Right.
quarterback for sure because you're drafting 11th. You don't want to be drafting there again, and there's four of them that everybody wants. So
Right.
that you're probably not going to have that deep a draft again the next time.
Well, and just the fact that you not only did you have to go get a quarterback, but this is the first time they've drafted a quarterback in the first round in a decade. This is the first time you really have an unknown commodity at quarterback in a long time. So I sense people are fired up just about. People love the unknown. Sports fans love the
Yeah.
unknown, the possibility of what could happen until it actually happens. And you're like, okay, this guy isn't that great, or hey, well, he really is good. Then you kind of make that judgment. But I get a sense that the fan base is invigorated in a way that they haven't been in a while. And part of that's just the Kirk era. We've talked about it. It needed to end just because it had run its course. But you you knew exactly what you were getting from him for better or for worse. And it's hard to get excited about that if this would have been year 7 of it. I think just from a pure interest standpoint, not just a football standpoint, they have made leaps and bounds this offseason by finally making that decision.
Yes. And let's say the last time they did this with Ponder, it was obvious that it was a reach of desperation. And
Yes.
this isn't one of those. So this is a guy that people wanted, and Ponder was I remember Dilfer, and so I had Dilfer on the radio, and he was on national TV, and he was, here's a guy that admittedly was a mediocre quarterback who won a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But and he'll tell you that. But he was saying this is way, way early for Ponder. And I mean, there were about 10 minutes when we were excited about him, but then we saw him play. So this is not that. This is not the second coming of Ponder for sure.
We were all excited because Ponder, I think, wasn't the big deal that Ponder graduated in 3 years, and he was really smart. He was really smart, and that was the proof that he could be a good NFL quarterback. And then the miracle of all miracles, they were making it to the playoffs that year that he was the starting quarterback because Adrian wouldn't let him do anything else, and Percy the first half of that year too. But yeah, this doesn't feel like that. This feels like, I think McCarthy, by the time he got down to the draft, everybody was saying he's a top 15 pick, and to take him at 10 is perfectly fine. Even if people probably say 1, 2, 3 were pretty clear, and then there's a little bit of a gap before you got to McCarthy. So yeah, we'll see. Yeah.
Speaking of Adrian, he reached into that limited supply of money that he has left, which is modest, and was here for a Timberwolves game, and maybe somebody flew him in to sign autographs or something like that too, because he'll go anywhere to make $5 now. So, you just blow a lot of money when you bring camels to your birthday party. I don't know. That's
True.
What a knothead, but he was fantastic. There's no doubt about it. He just wasn't very bright with the money. So anyway,
no. Well, it's nothing but good news today, Patrick. I don't know. I feel like it's easier for us when we have something to rip. There's not much to rip right now, so let's.
And our Lynx are starting practice and much more optimistic than a year ago. I think, even though they didn't get Caitlin, they should have tanked and tried to get Caitlin, but they did. But they have a much better team than and they should be clearly a playoff team this year. So and it'll be interesting to see. Now they draw okay anyway, but it'll be interesting to see if the phenomenon of women's basketball that we just experienced carries over to the WNBA. That's beyond Caitlin being coming to town as with the rest of the league. So anyway.
And our Loons won, Patrick. It's just winning. It's just all we do. It's all we do is win here now.
It is incredible. Do we have any losers in town right now? Probably not.
The Wild are pretty mediocre, but their season's over. You don't need to think about them for a while. Yeah, it's good times here, and we got to enjoy the good times while they're there, because we know they don't always last.
And let me tell you, this is the voice of hockey. Mm-hmm. The Wild didn't make the playoffs, and they signed some bad contracts, but they have, to start next season, the best first line they've had in the history of the franchise. They also got Eck to sign the worst contract in history, money-wise, so they got him cheap. Maybe the way things are going, they'll get out of the first round next year. That would be something, wouldn't it?
Right.
Even if they would get out of the first round, too. We're no longer the first round Minnesotans anymore. No. We're advancing playoffs. Amazing.
Yeah. All right, Patrick. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you again next week.
All righty. See ya.